sincere request. If you know any good agents, please send them my way.
What's up, meta-nerds? This complete breakdown of the Elcor will pull from every resource available to completely understand one of the most interesting races in the Mass Effect universe. The Elcor evolved on the high-gravity world of Dekunna. The planet orbits its star at a distance of 1.1 AU, completing a full orbit in 1.1 Earth years, and has a radius of 10,387 kilometers, with each day being the equivalent of 68.4 Earth hours. The atmospheric pressure is rated at 1.02 atmosphere and supports an average surface temperature of 29 degrees centigrade, or 84 degrees Fahrenheit. What's crucial to understanding their biology is that the surface gravity is significantly higher than Earth's at 4G, with the planet itself having a mass of 10.53 Earth masses, while being accompanied by a single satellite named Olton. This environment of being 4 times the gravitational force of Earth shaped all biology that evolved on Dekunna, creating these large, heavy bodies that, compared to other alien races, made the Elcor incredibly powerful. But interestingly, they do not move fast in 1G environments. It's not like someone training with heavy weights on and being suddenly let free, they're able to swing a bat faster or run faster. This is likely because evolution on Dekunna selected for more cautious actions. Not wanting to shock on the tendons, bones, etc., they don't want to fall down or be stampeding around, and since they are herbivores, their prey isn't running away from them. So grazing on grasses or leaves should be done as slow and cautiously as possible. We don't know if they face any natural predators on Dekunna, but they must either be not that big of a problem, or the fact that this elephant or cow-like species became the dominant beings on their world may point to Prothean involvement. I've never seen this posited by any official sources or fan speculation, but to me it's just so odd that there is no mention of Protheans when almost everyone else has some manipulation in their solar system. Everything from maybe being more indirect with humans to actively shaping the Asari and Hanar. I think with so many cattle comparisons with the Elcor, maybe they had a herder, space cowboys, beings that guided and protected them. Though to be fair, there are a lot of elephant influences with the Elcor, so they may have just been very intelligent, and we can deduce that they are some of the tallest and strongest beings on their world because one of the simplest reasons elephants are rarely attacked is just because they're so much larger than predators like lions and hyenas, and they do their best to stick together to protect their young. You can think since the Elcor are 2.2 to 2.4 meters tall, or about 7 foot 6 inches, a few feet shorter than the African and Asian elephant, we might expect all potential predators to be a bit shorter on this 4G world. Comment your thoughts on this, but I lean towards the Prothean involvement with so much cow-evoking detail. They have at least 3 stomachs, which I think is trying to evoke the colloquial way people say cows have multiple stomachs. Technically it's only 1, but with 4 compartments, but elephants do have only 1 stomach. Elcor lips are made up of vertical slats where other species would normally have their mouth, and even though these look unusual, these lips can easily grip things like cigars. To most species, Elcor speech sounds like a slow, flat monotone.
Why do you explain what you're about to say?
Our people communicate less through words and more through scent and slight movements. Plainly, we discovered our vocal expression was not enough to convey the feelings of our conversations to other species.
It's so nuanced that it makes a human smile seem over the top. Since this subtlety can confuse other species, Elcor always start conversations with a statement that explains the emotion behind their words. And like you might expect, their sense of smell is incredibly sharp. Here there seems to be play with the idea of pheromones, which do not have to be consciously picked up, not like how we usually use the word smell. They might not be aware of it, and it seems like every animal uses pheromones, from ants using them for trails, ladybugs use them to gather in groups and hunt, though most commonly, pheromones are for attracting the opposite sex, involved in facilitating reproduction in everything from lobsters to dogs and humans. Elcor can live for centuries, though not as long as the Asari or Krogan. For them, being around 100 years old is still considered young, while living to about 400 makes an Elcor seem old and grandfatherly. Their young are called calves, but to the point earlier, that's true for cows and elephants. Elcor generally prefer to stay on their colonies rather than travel in space, which is why you don't see many of them in the Citadel or other planets. Their large size and evolution in open-air environments makes the cramped conditions of space travel uncomfortable.
Frankly, we Elcor prefer the safety and familiarity of our own colonies to the confines of space travel.
Most Elcor would rather be out there grazing under the open sky, and their culture revolves around small, close-knit groups, and their overall conservative nature keeps their government stable. But they are in no ways against other species, and they're always welcoming to outsiders.
Genuine enthusiasm. I delight in telling the history of my people. It is agreeable to share our culture with others.
Historically, Elcor were migratory and had twin capitals on their homeworld, one for the wet season and one for the dry season. While modern technology has made this unnecessary, they still honor the tradition. Of course, like any other species, they enjoy entertainment and the arts, with notable Elcor artists like Forta having created pieces so intense they're rumored to drive viewers mad if stared at for too long. Some Elcor have even ventured into acting, with 2 appearing in a Blasto movie. One of their standout productions was an all-Elcor version of Shakespeare's Hamlet, which turned their natural traits into a unique way of conveying the play's subtleties.
Mournfully, O God Horatio, what a wounded name. Things standing thus unknown, shall I leave behind me.
This 14-hour adaptation was an award-winning hit from 2185 to 2186. Elcor cultural artifacts also captured widespread interest. Items like an Elcor mating totem are stowed in the Citadel archives.
I discovered an Elcor mating totem in Vault 347B. Fascinating.
And the Code of the Ancients, a collection of their ancestral wisdom, is kept on their homeworld and highly revered for its guidance. Although Elcor are known for their stability and peaceful nature, like any other group, there are exceptions. Psychopathic tendencies occasionally emerge, like the Elcor serial killer Garrus mentioned during his time with CSEC.
I remember this one Elcor diplomat we caught in my first year on the job. He was hacking people up and selling their organs. Had the station in a bit of a panic.
Some Elcor even live on Omega, serving as bouncers or running businesses. And really interestingly, the Elcor have a mnemonic for identifying viruses. Happy Turians treat Ralloi and Rachni to dinner. This refers to a list of chemical compounds they've known about for generations, which suggests that the Elcor may have been aware of the Ralloi long before their official discovery in 2184 CE.
In an apparent bid for self-preservation, the entire Ralloi delegation has left the Citadel. In parting, Representative Arika said, "We have no wish to battle those who have yet to wrong us, nor have we the capability. The Ralloi plan to destroy all artificial satellites and observation equipment they currently have in orbit. They say the Reapers will see them as a pre-spacefaring civilization and spare their planet. The Ralloi species made first contact with the Asari, and were formally welcomed into the galactic community last year. From across the Milky Way, this is the Alliance News Network."
The Elcor economy is relatively small, but still just a bit larger than the Alliance's, and is incredibly well developed. Typical, they don't believe in rushing things and prefer carefully planned, century-long development strategies. Since they're self-sufficient and have all the resources they need, they only trade finished goods, making any attempt to embargo them pointless. Their government, called the Courts of Dekunna, is guided by the Elders. These Elders spend years studying ancient legal records to determine the best course of action for any situation. They create detailed, step-by-step instructions for handling potential crises, which are stored in massive libraries of data. Because of this, Elcor policies are very predictable. That is, if you're willing to put in the time and do your homework. And in a competitive environment, they do face issues since the Elcor are not suited for quick, split-second decisions in combat due to their slow, cautious way of thinking. But their workaround is to rely on highly advanced VI combat systems. These machines use strategies refined over centuries by Elcor tacticians, allowing them to handle thousands of scenarios efficiently. Because of their size and slow movements, Elcor warriors are easy targets, but their thick, tough hides let them absorb a lot of damage.
With VI-assisted infantry, our soldiers carry heavy weapons into battle mounted on their backs. Mixed pride and shame, our enemies have called us living tanks, as well as names less flattering.
They don't maintain a large fleet of warships, partly because that cautious nature keeps them from rushing into conflict, and partly because their self-sufficient economy rarely leads to disputes serious enough to spark a war. That said, they do have some cruisers and carriers, primarily used for transporting troops, but no real focus on ship-to-ship warfare. The Treaty of Phyrexian limits non-council species to 1 dreadnought for every 5 the Turian zone, which would allow them up to 7 dreadnoughts by 2183. But it's unclear whether the Elcor military has built any dreadnoughts or sees the need to. In their prehistoric days, Elcor lived in large tribal groups that were likely led by the oldest and most experienced members. This early structure may have evolved into their current culture of respecting elders, whose wisdom could guide their people and keep them safe. Once they started exploring space, the Asari were the first to make contact with them. With Asari help, the Elcor discovered the nearest mass relay, and within a single generation, established a regular trade route to the Citadel. They quickly became a prominent species in Citadel space, though they still share an embassy with the Volus. I saw a great question on Reddit asking if they would need to be depressurized when going into standard 1G environments, places like the Citadel and most galactic hubs, with the idea being that higher gravity usually leads to higher pressure environments, asking why the Elcor don't turn into meat soda, exploding and pouring out upon exposure to such radically different environments. But if you remember, the atmospheric pressure was only 1.02 atmosphere, so not noticeably different. Likely a different composition of gases and a shorter or more tightly bound atmosphere. Atmospheric pressure at the Dead Sea can get around 1.06 atmosphere, since it's below sea level. And you might even felt that atmospheric pressure here on Earth during more rare high pressure storms. So the atmospheric pressure increase is nowhere near the gravitational increase, nothing like 4 times that of Earth or common space stations. During the Reaper invasion of 2186, the Elcor prepared to defend their homeworld, Dekunna. But that smaller navy was easily destroyed when the Reapers attacked their system, leaving many Elcor warriors and civilians stranded.
Small hope. Perhaps we can evacuate some of our civilians when your forces arrive.
But the Reapers took longer than usual to fully conquer Dekunna because the Elcor lived in scattered settlements rather than crowded cities. But still, this delay wasn't enough to save them. With no rescue efforts coming, an Elcor diplomat on the Citadel pleaded with Commander Shepard for help. If Shepard chooses to assist, some Elcor manage to escape the planet, though the diplomat's grief over the numbers is clear as he bluntly states,
Not enough.
Despite their losses, the remaining Elcor military joins the rest of the galaxy's forces in the final battle on Earth. And there is that strain of those who escaped to the Andromeda Galaxy. The Quarian ark Kila Sia set off for the Andromeda Galaxy just as the Reaper invasion began in the Milky Way, carrying exactly 3,311 Elcor amongst its passengers, all eager for a fresh start in the galaxy. About 30 years before their arrival, some Elcor were awakened from their massive cryo garages, only to fall victim to the highly contagious Fortinbras plague, which was spreading throughout the ship. Thanks to the efforts of a doctor named Yorick, a cure was eventually created and distributed to all 6 races on board, though not before the plague claimed several lives. That's it for the breakdown, and as for behind the scenes facts, the whole part with the Elcor version of Hamlet is a reference to Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, because the ad in Mass Effect 2 has a line saying you have not experienced Shakespeare until you've heard it in the voice of an Elcor, and the line from Star Trek was, you haven't experienced Shakespeare until you've read it in the original Klingon. And the lore on this goes pretty deep, as the director of that Elcor version of Hamlet was director Francis Kitt, whose name might be a reference to a Shakespearean conspiracy theory. Some people believe that the true author of Shakespeare's plays was Francis Bacon and Christopher Kit Marlowe, and so our Elcor director is pulling the Francis and Kit. And it's even brought up again in Mass Effect 3, and you can meet the actor in the Silver Sun strip. The official Xbox magazine gave the Elcor the Best New Species of the Year award, and their long history with conservative approaches to law, so much focus on passing down legal interpretations over each generation, was inspired by the Talmudic scholarship of Judaism. This one's a bit disturbing, that originally the mouths was just supposed to look like humans. But because they wanted to have this monotone and speaking so slow, there was too much extra work needed to lip sync with the audio, and so the slits that we get actually make that a lot easier. This stating of the emotion was actually a reference to HK-47 from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which was also made by BioWare, where the droid would state out the emotion first.
Statement. That is correct. Conclusion. And you cannot harm me. Irritated statement. That is what we said, obsolete unit. There must be a delay in your processors. Statement. Then that is all I need to know. Confused query. Where are you going? Ineffectual command. Stop! Ineffectual command. We command you to stop!
And some fans have noticed that they have gotten a lot beefier in the Legendary Edition. And there are only 2 known females that appear, though even that may again be a reference to Shakespearean productions, where males were playing females. And so maybe the only actual female we ever get to hear from is in Mass Effect 3. It's during an ad for Blasto 6 Partners in Crime.
Badassfully. Damn it. You big stupid jellyfish. I'm just 3 solar days from retirement.
Obtain a firm grip on your reproductive anatomy.
If you made it this far, please hit that like button, comment your thoughts and suggestions for future videos, subscribe to see more, and check out these other videos, I'm sure you'll like them. But most important of all, remember, Elcor tipping is cruel and unusual, but for now, I should go.